Rigby gets the girl. Take a second with that. Rigby, the raccoon who dropped out of high school, who was too lazy to fill out his own job application and spent the first 2 seasons of the show treating the girl who clearly liked him like she was furniture he kept accidentally bumping into. That guy ends up in the healthiest relationship in regular show. And not just healthy, the best one. The one that actually lasts. Mordecai is the one who seemingly wanted love the most. He thought about it and built entire fantasies around it. Rigby couldn't even be bothered to be nice to the one person who liked him. And somehow, Rigby got there first. But before we get to how Rigby got there, we need to talk about who he got there with. That's Eileen, and she's a mole. And I say that not as a physical description, though it is one. I say it because it tells you everything about how the show positions her from the start. She's a creature that lives underground, essentially stays hidden, and does most of her best work beneath the surface where nobody is paying attention. She works at the coffee shop near the park. She's Margaret's co-worker, and for the first couple of seasons, that's basically the whole introduction. Friend of the girl Mordecai likes. And that's completely not who she is. Eileen owns her own house, her own car. She attends college full-time and never fails classes. She knows how to start a fire from scratch. She can identify constellations without looking up. She knows geology, modern dance, and stuff about sea turtles. She's not quirky in the way TV characters are usually quirky, where it's cute and charming and immediately legible. She's quirky in the way actual smart people can be quirky, where the interests are specific, maybe a little odd and hyper-specific, and the depth of knowledge is kind of startling if you actually stop to listen and get to know them. Nobody really stops to listen, though, not for a long time. Her crush on Rigby in the early seasons is played entirely for laughs. She buries golf balls in sand traps and tells him they're sea turtle eggs. She mentions she gets lost in the woods a lot because she was going through a phase. She shows up to double dates that Rigby clearly doesn't want to be on, carrying all this warmth and enthusiasm into a situation where the other person is barely making eye contact. And still, the show kind of frames her as the joke. If there ever was a definition for the third or fourth wheel of the group, she would be it. But there's something the show is setting up that takes years to pay off. Margaret is a red-breasted robin, conventionally attractive, socially confident, always slightly out of reach. She's the obvious love interest, the one you're supposed to want, the one that the show focuses on and gives all the story and drama and attention to. Eileen is kind of the exact opposite in every dimension. Not the one in the spotlight, not the one being chased, just consistently there, kind of underfoot. And that contrast is the whole point. Regular show spends years building 2 parallel love stories, and the one that gets all the screen time and all the drama is not the one that works out. And you should watch our video on that one, so make sure to check out the channel. But the one that works out barely gets any screen time at all. Okay, well, they do get a lot of screen time, but their love and relationship doesn't really seem to. Which means that the show is asking you, or telling you to ask yourself, something from pretty early on, even if you don't realize it yet. What if the person worth loving, the one worth having a relationship with, is the one that you're not noticing at all? Which is even more brutal if you look at how Rigby started in the show. Rigby is a raccoon who dropped out of high school. Or, well, dropped out. Didn't he, blow up a science lab? Minor detail. Seeing that Mordecai did get a diploma, he's still a dropout because apparently he couldn't be bothered to get a GED or something. And it goes deeper than laziness, too. Early Rigby is genuinely kind of a bad person. He lies constantly, he causes supernatural disasters through sheer negligence, and then refuses to take responsibility. The whole show is basically about him and his best friend refusing to take responsibility for things. Rigby is insecure about his younger brother, Don, who is taller, more successful, and basically that insecurity only made him meaner early on. But the worst thing Rigby ever does is something that would end friendships in the real world. It turns out that when Mordecai got accepted to college university, yeah, I know, years before the show started, Rigby forged a rejection letter and made Mordecai believe that he didn't get in, so that Mordecai would stay at the park and that Rigby wouldn't be left behind. He robbed his best friend of his future because he was terrified of being alone and inadequate without someone alongside him. That is who we're starting with. Now, Mordecai, who at this point in the show is the one with actual romantic potential and is the one getting into all the drama and pursuing a relationship, is the one who's thinking about love. He really cares about it. He shows up to that coffee shop every single day just to be near Margaret, trying to be emotionally available in a way that Rigby just is not. And Eileen? To early Rigby, Eileen is kind of an inconvenience. She likes him, and that's her problem, I guess. When Mordecai guilt trips Rigby into a double date, Rigby's response is immediate.
Dude, there's no way I'm going out with Eileen.
So when people talk about the Rigby and Eileen arc being satisfying, this is kind of why. The show is not starting from two people who are pretty good for each other who find their way together. It's starting from one person who is quietly, genuinely wonderful, and the other person who can barely function as a human being, or raccoon. The distance that Rigby travels across this show in terms of emotional intelligence and in terms of personal development is enormous, and it doesn't happen because of some single dramatic moment where he decides to be better. It happens slowly, in small amounts, almost by accident, but notable over the length of the show. There's no episode where Rigby sits down and decides to be a better person. From a regular cartoon, or a regular show you might say, you'd expect some sort of rock-bottom speech and some transformative moment where the character decides to turn the other cheek, or leaf, or rock, or whatever it is. But no, not for Rigby. It just starts happening over time, quietly, in the margins of episodes that are technically about something else entirely. And that's exactly how the show makes its argument about love. Take a look at all these moments. Rigby gets sprayed by a were-skunk and starts transforming into a monster every time he gets stressed. At one point, he nearly hurts Eileen, and when she tells him that he's scaring her, he transforms back, just like Aang returning from the Avatar state. Boom. He cares enough about her and that fear in her voice to pull him out of it. The show doesn't comment on this, it's kind of an early moment. It moves on from this, but it plants something. Then comes the first real turning point. Mordecai and Rigby take Margaret and Eileen camping at a restricted mountain spot. When Mordecai fumbles through identifying a constellation, Eileen corrects him without even looking up. Oh, and just before that, they lost their matches too, and Eileen, without making a big deal of it, starts a fire the old-fashioned way. Rigby, who had spent 2 seasons treating her like background noise, goes,
"Yeah, that was kind of cool."
"Ladies and gentlemen, that was the first time he actually sees her." Mordecai, for reference in the same time frame, uses a time machine to erase a real kiss with Margaret because he couldn't handle 5 minutes of embarrassment. Again, check out our episode on that. We go into Mordecai's story and his drama and how his relationships early on didn't end up so well, but also how he ended up in a good relationship. So check that out. But Mordecai has essentially been in love for 3 years now and is actively running backward, away from romance, away from a partner, just because he felt embarrassed for a few minutes. Oy. Rigby has barely started moving forward, and he's already doing something Mordecai can't. Rigby does get a helping hand, though. A guardian spirit forces the characters to confess their deepest secrets or face the consequences. And Rigby lets it all out.
"I think Eileen is hot without her glasses on!"
The show plays this as if it's his most closely guarded truth, equal in weight to confessions about dead loved ones, or some illicit behavior, or perhaps someone's internet history. And the next day, Eileen shows up without her glasses, walks directly into a table because she can barely see, and neither of them say a word about it. It's pretty funny, but underneath the joke is something that the show is quietly logging. He has feelings he can't name yet, and she knows it, but she's patient enough to let him get there on his own terms, and still drops some hints on the way. When Rigby needs to complete a single pull-up to keep his job, Eileen trains him. And when he finally manages it and the whole thing is over, he tells her he wants to hug her, but he's afraid that he'll crush her because of all his power. Oh yeah, he got huge in this episode, but we're skipping over that. I guess starting with one chin-up can really do that, huh? But Eileen says that she wants a hug anyway. He hugs her, accidentally crushes her a little. She whispers,
Totally worth it.
just another tiny moment. The show moves on, but something has shifted and everyone watching can feel it. And then there's a detail so small, the show barely even shows it at all. In an episode where Rigby gets transformed into a house by a wizard, if you look at his mantelpiece, just sitting there in the background, there's a picture of Eileen. Rigby is transformed, and right on the mantelpiece, someone he cares about. And then the show just continues with those small hints, kind of in the background every once in a while. I really like seeing those Easter eggs sometimes, you know? Like Eileen giving Rigby dessert. He tries it, says he loves it, and she thought he would, so just 2 people who know each other better over time, and just well enough that one of them already knows what the other one will love. Meanwhile, the same season, Mordecai takes a bazooka blast for CJ out of love. The show gives it a full emotional sequence. Rigby gets there with a single piece of cake. No drama, no extraordinary behavior here, just a regular show from a regular raccoon. And that's the argument the show is making. Right there in that contrast, the difference between Mordecai, the bluebird making grand shows and displays, and the raccoon who has complimented a mole for not wearing her glasses and for liking a dessert that she gave him. Normal, everyday stuff. And that's the regular show the cartoon is talking about. Grand gestures are great every once in a while, right? But they're not the same as genuine knowing on those slow moments in between. One of those things is a performance, a dance. The other one is love. Love is longer and deeper and harder. Wait, no. Love takes longer and is deeper emotionally and is harder to actually pin down. But again, Eileen and Rigby are not together yet, not officially. Something still has to happen to tip it over into full relationship, right? And this happens at a Christmas party. This is gonna be their romantic moment, right? And the party is one of those situations where every relationship in the show is suddenly in the same room at the same time. What a classic episode. This is either a great idea or a disaster waiting to happen, depending on which character you are. For Mordecai, it is a disaster. Margaret is there, CJ is there. He spends the whole night panicking and overcompensating and peacocking, trying to manage two emotional realities at once and not doing so well. He pulls CJ aside, tells her he has no feelings for Margaret. She kisses him, he exhales, and then he ends up alone with Margaret. They start talking, nostalgia settles over the moment like a fog, and they're kissing. Years of unresolved feelings with nowhere left to go, and his guard goes down, and there it was at right the wrong moment. CJ sees it, and his entire relationship detonates in one night. Now, cut to Rigby. He's gifting Eileen a mistletoe disco ball, which is exactly the kind of cheap gift that Rigby would give. Chaotic, slightly ridiculous, and weirdly thoughtful underneath the chaos. And when Mordecai teases him for being too scared to actually use it, Rigby doesn't pull a Mordecai. He just kisses Eileen on the cheek. A little bit similar to the way that Mordecai kissed Margaret, but still slow, and this one is chosen and more intentional. Again, I can't keep repeating this. The show puts these two relationships and these two moments in the same episode because it wants you to feel the distance between them and the contrast. One man got so entangled in his own feelings that he blew up something real without even meaning to, and couldn't handle two simultaneous relationships in his head at the same time. The other stopped thinking and just showed up and wasn't conflicted and just pursued one person without getting into drama and just took simple, easy acts. And that's it. And Eileen's reaction says it all. She looks like this is the next thing in a sequence that's been building for a while. This is just the next step. Like, she's been watching him get there for years, and she's just glad he arrived. Which, to be fair, she is glad, and he did get there, and it did take some time. Men are kinda slow that way. That all builds up to the big reveal after Muscle Man's wedding, which should be one of the happiest episodes of the show, but we're contrasting two relationships here, so pay attention. So, Muscle Man and Starla have been together forever. The whole park crew is there, it's a grand celebration, and for about 5 minutes, it's a wonderful time. Until Mordecai stands up and starts giving a speech about not knowing who his soulmate is. We've covered this in our other episode, so I won't be going into details here, make sure to check that one out, but who boy was this an embarrassing moment, and who boy was this not great for his emotional development or relationships. So CJ leaves, returns the charm bracelet, and walks out of Mordecai's life permanently. And then, in the rubble of all of that, Rigby mentions something.
Spill it.
Eileen and I are dating for like a couple of months now. We have matching bracelets.
Dude, that's crazy.
He and Eileen have been dating for a couple of months, and nobody knew, even we. The reason they kept it quiet? Eileen asked him not to say anything. She didn't want them rubbing their happiness into Mordecai's face while his romantic life was falling apart. She thought about someone else's feelings first and asked Rigby to do the same. And Rigby, the guy who started the series without being able to fill out a job application and who spent 2 months treating Eileen like an inconvenience and who ended his friend's entire college career, actually kept that secret and didn't brag. Wow, I know, for Rigby that is something. For 3 months, without slipping once. Sit with that for just a second. This is the moment the show has been building toward since the camping double date. A quiet reveal that Rigby had already become a different person, somewhere off-screen, while the show is busy watching Mordecai fall apart. And that's exactly the point. We can learn from both of these characters. Mordecai's entire romantic life is a public event. Every feeling he has becomes someone else's problem. He processes love outward, loudly, in ways that kind of leave wreckage behind it. Rigby just lets it be a thing that was happening without needing anyone to witness it, without making a big deal about it, and while respecting his partner's wishes. The show has been building this contrast for 6 seasons, and it pays off with a single throwaway line in the aftermath of someone else's disaster, which is, when you think about it, exactly how Rigby would do it. So that all leads to one big question. What did Rigby have to learn to go from a raccoon who was kind of an asshole to someone with the healthiest relationship in the show? Incidentally, it was not the relationship itself. We don't necessarily see Rigby becoming a better person because he fell in love. He started trying after he found a childhood manifesto of Eileen's where she wrote about wanting to marry someone brilliant, preferably with several patents. After reading that and becoming motivated, Rigby re-enrolls in high school, secretly. He tells Eileen that he's sick to explain why he keeps disappearing. When Eileen finds out, she's actually hurt that he lied, and she tells him that he doesn't need to change for her, she just wants him to be who he is, and she likes him as he is, and he tells her that he's going to keep going anyway. Not even for her, for himself. And maybe a little bit for her, but I think that's the core. In the end, it was Rigby himself that made the change. He looked at what his partner cared about, and even though she loved him the way he was, he looked at himself honestly and changed over the seasons to become a better person, both for himself and for her. The show ends with Rigby building a life with Eileen. They get married, they have 2 daughters, they have a life together, and it's not dramatic, it is a regular relationship. That is what a regular relationship can look like, without all the extra drama, without the jealousy, without the showboating, without all the extra conflict and miscommunication. That is what is possible, and sometimes you have to take a long road to get there, and sometimes you don't end up where you want to go, but hey, that's life, and you learn, you improve, you learn your lessons of everything around you, including cartoons and this channel. But there's something else in that final epilogue I want to talk about. During that same reunion at the finale, with a family of his own looking genuinely happy, is Mordecai. So wait, at the end of this whole thing, with all of that drama, with all of that conflict, Mordecai still ends up in a relationship with someone we don't even know at all? What's up with that? Well, hold your horses and other livestock, because we actually go into that on another episode here. It's quite the doozy. Head over there and watch it, and let us know if you think that lesson was a harder hit than this one. I think they're kind of like this, so I don't know, you'll just have to watch it to find out. See you there. Peace, everyone.